Hey guys, this is my latest release. This is a modular city release. This is a huge release and it's going to get bigger over time. You're looking at a scene that was built with pieces, including all of the new shops and things, which if you're looking for new blacksmiths and homes, there's an undertaker. I've got that in here, but this is meant to also give you a lot more than just a couple of new shops. This is another city scene that was all built with components. All those components are inside of this system. And as we're going through this, you can not only see the new elements here, but this is to really build your cities the way that you want. If you want to build a tactical map, I've got tactical pieces here. If you want to build, throw in a park, you can do that. You can walk right into the park and have sound and lights, and the trees will disappear overhead. And you can really make your maps the way that you want to, however you want to tell your story. And this will get bigger over time with other assets and pieces that you can use in all of your games. You're looking at different maps that I've included as starters or samples with my map pack that you can automatically just jump into. But you can also manipulate them and make them how you want. This, for example, is the facade that leads to the Fighting Pit Tavern, which has been one of my maps for some time. But that's another big thing here is I integrate all the other things that I've done, or I will over time, into this modular system as well. So you can even put really complex maps inside of here, and it's really all just dynamic. You can see I'm walking through things where walls are in boxes are dynamically displaying lighting. This is all included, and you can just drag them right out of your actors tab. Here's dragging in some trees. And then as my players walk under them, they auto disappear using the roofs module. So just a really ambitious project. Here's an example of another facade. This one's a whole building. This is the tower that many of you have seen and played with, but this is a 11-story tower that you can drop right into the middle of a scene, and you can now surround it with buildings that didn't have surrounding it before. You can create whole stories around it. And as you have players approach these more complex structures, they can teleport right into them and then teleport right back to their map. But you can see here's a dojo. I've put just a bunch of new elements and tactical pieces that just follow you everywhere. Here's a dirty version, so there's also different versions of terrain, like snow terrain, muddy terrain. You can see here is an example of the same scene, but in a winter theme with a different element put into the center and the granary, which is what you saw before. And ultimately, the scale of this is potentially huge. Now, you have to have a good processor to handle this, but you're looking at an entire city that was just made with pieces. And that's what I want to get into in our demo today. Okay, so in terms of the setup for the new modular town pack, remember that it is a new module. So if you have my premium pack already, you can still have that, and you should still have it if you want to use some of the facade integrations. But this is going to be a separate premium module called Baileywiki Maps Towns. Once you enable that module, it will create some new compendiums for you in your compendium folder, and it'll be called Baileywiki Maps Town compendiums. You'll have an actor compendium. This one has all of the deployable elements from tactical to the different town pieces and everything else that you might want to deploy if you want to make your own maps. You don't have to use this, but if you want to make your own, you have to use token attacher module for these elements to be deployable. You also get some macros, which are the same macros that you find in the other ones, but for convenience, I included them in here as well. Some things to automatically make weather, for example, you'll find in here. You also have journal entries, which will give you links to all of the modules that you might want to use for the modular town system, and some instructions on how to use it, as well as a link to this video. And then down here under the scenes, you'll have a number of scenes that are pre-built. I built some samples that you can use right out of the box. You don't even need Token Attacher to use these. They're just ready to go. And then you also have templates of different sizes. You have a 17 by 17, 34 by 34, and then 68 by 68. This is a very large template. And unless you have machines that are higher end, you're going to find things that you build on this template are going to be slower. So your mileage may vary on this larger template. You might be better off just linking multiple smaller templates together and making your town that way. And then of course, this is a really small template and should give you no problems at all. And then you can change the backgrounds of these templates as well. And you'll see me introduce other templates and other samples as this system continues to develop. One thing to show you really quick, if you right click one of these compendiums and say import all content, then it'll create a new folder for you. And I recommend doing that just so these things don't just get dumped into your scenes and actors tabs. But you'll notice here for my actors tab, it's created this folder for me called Baileywiki Maps Town Assets. And then I've created these subfolders just to further organize it. You won't get these subfolders until you create them, but let's walk through the different elements. You've got centers, which are going to be larger elements that just drop into a particular scene. Like you've seen the Christmas tree before. It's going to drop into the center of a scene and it's going to tend to take up more space. These are going to be more complex elements and they'll come with sound and lighting and things like that. You've also got class 2 buildings, which are going to be your middle class. Class 1, which is yet to come, will be the high class buildings, but class 1 buildings are going to be like your nicer homes, there's going to be more space in these homes in general. And, you're going to have some of your higher end shops and things like that. And then your class 3 buildings are going to be your lower class buildings. They're going to be smaller in size, pretty meager. A lot of times they don't have bathrooms, and you can mix and match your class 2 and class 3 buildings. The next piece you have is facades. So facades are like main buildings, except that they link to larger maps. So for example, if you've ever used the keep or the infested keep, you can drop the entire map into your map and you'll see the keep here show up, and it'll show up at scale. And it's even got lights and sounds to go along with it. But what happens is it's got a teleporter here, which will take you to the actual keep scene, because it's a 6-level map that you can dungeon crawl. So it's too much to just drop into a scene, but I did create it so that it's a facade and can drop in that way. There's other facades like the Fighting Pit Tavern or the Yawning Tavern. Any of the taverns can work this way. The tavern also is a very large map, but I made it so that you could drop the facade of it into any map. And it's even got the noise from that map coming out. If you go to the entryway, there's a multi-level token teleporter here that will get you into that map if you click on it, which my player just teleported there, but because I'm in GM view, it doesn't take you directly there from the GM view, although the player's view would have teleported him in. So that's what facades are. You'll see me introduce more facades, integrating things like the mansion in here as well, which a lot of you are used to. And then you have all your tactical elements. These are going to be things like benches, canal components, crates, elevation elements. For these trees, the tree canopy itself will auto-hide when your players go underneath it. You've got various wagons and other tactical elements. There will be a lot of development I do to introduce other tactical items, other variations of these. So if you have ideas for tactical elements that you'd like to see, by all means, let me know. Quick walkthrough of the low-class scenes. You've got, starting in number 1 space, you've got a home. You've got an inn, a meager inn that has a place to drink and eat. You've got an undertaker, another home with a wagon attached to it. You've got a smithy, it's super dirty and interesting. You've got over here a bedroom, and then some kind of torture is going on in that room. You've got the magic shop and the person who lives there. Then you've got a meeting room and maybe a bunkhouse. Maybe you put guards there. You've got weapons and another home attached to it. And then a home attached to what is essentially probably a pet shop. Some kind of creatures being kept there that are being either bought or trained. And then you've got a provisions shop as well. In the middle, you've got the granary, which has another story to it and makes like for a really good tactical middle piece. The middle class shops we'll walk through. There's a candle shop, which is really nice. Fletcher for arrows and bows. And there's a nice little tavern with a home built in next to it. You've got another maybe guardhouse. Maybe it's another inn. You've got a curio shop that's got some secrets to it, as well as the secret room that leads down into potentially a way of getting interesting inventory. Here's a bank that's got a vault attached to it with a really heavy door and some interesting stuff put into it. And then a nice home that is bolted on next to that. You've got a dojo with lots of space to do some sparring and some training. There's some living quarters there. And then there's a tailor that has a house built in next to that as well. So let's talk about how to use the tactical elements inside of this new modular city system. There's actually two ways that you can introduce tactical elements. You can either use token attacher and drag them directly from your actors tab. And here I've just dropped in a bench. Or you can alternatively drop them in as a tile. And you may have reasons to do one or the other. If I drop them in as a tile, then I have to go to modules, premium towns, maps, town square, miscellaneous, and then I'll find all of my items in here and I can drag them in. Now, if you see that they're the wrong size, you need to scale them. So I'm going to set this to 200 and I'll drag this in and it'll be set. Now, if you use the token attacher and the deploy elements, they'll deploy at the right size. But if you need to, or if you're working with a map that's not in standard Foundry 100 pixels, then this is how you adjust it there. But again, you can just drag in these pieces directly from here and you can form them that way, or you can alternatively drag them in from here and then you can rotate them around as you need to. Some of these items have pieces that or have other elements attached to them. For example, you can see these invisible walls here. That's so that when you link all of these canals together, that the walls will in fact keep users from falling into the canal. You'll also notice that there is lighting with anything that has like torches and things like that on it. So that's the canals. They do link together. Some of them will link better than others in terms of just making a seamless visual connection. Play around with it, try different ones. See, this one links pretty well together, but there's other ones that may not. So you just have to kind of rotate them around and see what works best. It's not going to be perfect, but the idea is not to make an exhaustive list of elements when these are going to be kind of throwaway maps anyway. Another easy way to use the actor compendium is you can just search for the word canal and it'll bring up all of your canal components together. Or you can search for the word tactical and it'll give you all of your tactical items in order. Now the crates work the same way. They also have terrain walls on them. And once you drop them in place, you can just select the control token and either hold down shift or hold down control and you can rotate them around and move them any way that you want. The elevation elements have both a high and a low version. So the high, let's grab the high stair to start with. And so you can see we've got a staircase now. That staircase does have walls tied to it, and they're one-way walls. So when you're standing at the top, you can see down, but when you're standing down below, you cannot see up. And if we double click on the wall, we'll also see that if you have the wall height module installed, it will bring in some attributes for that. Not everything has this yet. I didn't set up everything with actual height, but you can set that up in here if you'd like to once, or adjust it afterwards once your map is created. If you want to add more pieces to the stair, there's a straight piece. And this one you just connect in, and you can fudge it a little bit. You can move it underneath. These are also just PNGs, and you won't hurt anything by, or WebP files, sorry. You won't hurt anything by moving them down below. And you can see that you can take a straight piece and really make it significantly shorter, and it all still stays seamless together. And then you have outside curves and inside curves as well. Oh, that was for the lower section here. Let's get a high outside curve. And we'll rotate it. I'm holding down the control key just because it rotates a little bit slower. And there I've now got an elevation piece here that I can use for tactical advantage. And again, everything still has one-way walls at certain wall heights associated with it. You have things like garbage cans, so you can hide behind. You have manholes, where if you want to create a scenario where your players are sort of teleporting into that from a sewer, for example, I'll be creating some sewer packs to go with this. These manholes come with multi-level token zones already on them. And if I go to my drawing layer, you can see code this somewhere. If I just give this a unique code and then I have its twin somewhere else, maybe in a sewer somewhere, then I can have players teleporting in and out from a manhole. There's other things like sewer grates. These actually come with sounds. There may be an advantage to putting that in your streets or just to help break a street up. Your trees have not only walls, terrain walls, so that they can create some, interesting visual dynamic effects, but they also have the ability to auto hide. I'm in GM view, so it's not auto hiding the tree canopy, but if in your player's view that you would see just the tree canopy, when they walk under it, it would disappear. And you've got a couple of different trees just for variety. You also have some wagons that work just like the crates, where you can use them as tactical elements. They've got walls around them as well. And then you've got city walls. And the way I did this, just to keep it simple, is you can drop in a city wall, and this one goes up. And all it means is that the shadow falls on this side, in case you want your walls to work a certain way or look a certain way. And then this is a wall down. And you can see they seamlessly connect. They also have walls attached to them that are one-way walls. So when you're on the wall, you can see down, but not in the other direction. Of course, you can adjust all of this later. And then there's something called a wall extender. So I'm going to connect another wall piece. Actually, it's a wall connector. So let's do another wall up, and we'll drag it up to here, actually. And again, you can do this with just the PNGs if you want to, but this has the walls already set up. And if you put it right about here where it's overlapping, then you can take this connector. In this case, we have a right angle, so we're going to use a right angle connector. We're going to drop it right in there. And then I'm going to hold down the control key, and you're going to see that I can rotate the wall so that this lines up. And all this does is just complete that wall. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good for just being able to drop in some city walls. And you can use those not only to make your maps a little bit more interesting, but and block them out and create some tactical elements where your players can be up above. But that's how those walls work. I'll drop another one in. Here's one if you don't have the wall connecting anywhere. You just drop that right in the middle. And then you can rotate this around, and you can see that this wall now ends, and it still has all of the wall elements that you would expect. So that's it for the tactical stuff. Hopefully you guys have fun, and let me know what other kinds of tactical elements you'd like me to introduce, or if you see improvements to the current set. Quick tutorial on how facades work. You're looking at the facade that I dragged in. It's the Wizard's Tower. It's got some multi-level token zones already embedded in it, which you may or may not want to use. But the way you do it is you just code that zone to its destination. You can make sure that it's activated by a journal entry click. And then your players As long as you put the twin of that spot here in the entrance of the tower, then your players can immediately teleport into the base of the tower. Or if they enter from the roof, you can have them enter into some interesting places, and they're in a completely separate scene, but that's how that works. Let's put it all together now and build a street battle map. I'm going to drag in a couple of C2 middle class buildings. You just adjust them, and those roofs will go away. At the end, I may lock some doors that I don't want my players to access, like I'm going to do right here. I will also put in surrounding walls in case I don't want them to leave certain areas. And then I'm going to select all with my tokens, and I'm going to mass hide or make invisible all of the tokens. This is before I put any NPCs or other tokens into the scene. I'm just going to hide all of my control tokens. That way, even though I can see them as the GM, the players can't see them. And now I'm just looking at what kind of tactical elements do I want to build into here. I'm going to grab the two sides, and this time I'm just using PNGs or the WebP files. I'm just grabbing two sides and then a middle section for this staircase. And you can see they line up. You may want to place them above or below the other ones. And then I'm just going to drag that out a couple times and use the same exact image because they tile together, and it just makes one seamless staircase there that I can use for some kind of tactical effect. I'm going to drop in some street lights because I may want to have this battle at night and I want to have some lighting going on. Maybe I want some benches around because I need something that my rogues can hide behind or use for cover. And then I'll drop in a couple of trees. Again, those tree canopies will be visible to the players until they run underneath them. And then maybe I want some more cover and some more kind of tactical elements. So I'll drop in some crates. And again, those crates have walls built into them, so they can serve as natural cover. And a wagon also for the same effect. And then maybe I don't want my players to see or go into that big empty space, so I'll just put a large wall there to cut it off. And now I drop the lights, I drop my player, and then the last thing I'll do is I'll add some ambient sound. And this sound, if you type in the word loop, you can see some of the sounds. In this case, I'm just going to drop in a sound of a town here. And then I'll add some weather effects just by hitting my macro. And now I've got a pretty fast and quick and pretty effective battle map that I just built. I can go into the buildings that I've allowed my players to go into. Maybe they start off in this little inn, and then when they wake up in the morning, they wake up to, or maybe in the middle of the night, they wake up to enemies in the street. Another thing I want to show you is the ambient sounds that come with the modular city. I will create more of these as well. But as you can hear and see, I've got weather turned on. I have macros included to help you turn on automatically this top-down rain with clouds floating by. If you ever need to turn it off for performance reasons or otherwise, you just go into FXMaster, which is the module that runs these, and you just hit this clear effects button, and it will stop all of the weather currently going on. And again, you can start it up again by hitting the macro. But there's more than just this sound. So for example, if we wanted to get rid of the rain sound and we wanted something else, if I double click here, it will take me into the towns module under sounds, and I've got some other options. If you type in the word loop, you can see what some of those options are. So let's say that I wanted instead a kind of a busy marketplace sound. I can select that file instead, update my ambient sound, and if you select an actor, you can now hear that sound. You'll notice when I set it to ambience that I do set it up as a global sound so that it goes through walls. You may or may not want that. You can set up multiple local sounds so that it still carries outside, but when you go inside, it goes away. So there's different ways to set up and configure that. But if you look at some of the other options, by the way, these are all optimized in as small file sizes as I could manage, and they all loop pretty well. But you've got a medieval town loop, you've got a pirate saloon, which I like in case you want to mix up some of your, saloon sounds. But that's just some more options that you can use to set up your modular towns the way that you want to. One more little Easter egg, I do include for free a bunch of NPCs. I make these with Hero Forge, which I recommend you get. These are just something that you can quickly populate your town with NPCs. There's also some Goliaths, some ghostly servants, some dancers, and musicians. There's even this Goliath bartender who I love. But anyway, you can download these for free from my Patreon and have fun with them. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. You can see that this is a pretty ambitious project. This is the version 0.5 of this system. So if you get it and play with it, let me know how I can improve it, if there's any kind of problems with it. Where this goes from here is this system becomes, something I can build on and that my community can build on as well. You'll see me doing more integrations with my existing maps. I'll build new building types. I'll build new facades, new large maps like cathedrals that can integrate into here. You'll see me introduce the top tier class of buildings, new terrain types. You're looking at the basic cobble. You've seen some other terrain types. You'll see me introduce snow version of everything, so you can have all of these maps in kind of a white, snow, Frost Maiden type of motif. I can introduce more tactical elements. And then I'll also be introducing, as the modules get developed to be able to do it, I will introduce more like second level type maps and increase the complexity of the buildings that are available to you. So that's it. Hopefully you guys pick this up and let me know if you have fun with it and how we can make it really, really awesome.